Final April episode of the Soxcast, recording live from Blue Sox Academy. And this week's guest, currently the pitching coach in the Twins minor league system for their single A affiliate, the Cedar Rapids Colonels. But before that, he managed the 2016 West Division Championship team for the Utica Blue Sox, the first Utica Blue Sox team since the team officially got the name back after the minor league version back in 2001. And in 2016, as I mentioned, West Division champs and the most wins total in franchise history in the summer collegiate side. So joining me now is none other than the manager of that team, Mark Moriarty. Coach, it's funny, it's been 6 years. I still call you Coach, Skip, all that, but it's good to get you here, man.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it was that long ago. 2016 feels like yesterday, but I'm glad to be here.
So to gauge where, you've obviously been coaching for a while, you had a lot of, college coaching experience. And was there any summer collegiate experience that as a coach, as a manager, and, how, and also, what your expectations were taking that managerial role with the Blue Sox and with the roster that was put in front of you?
Yeah, I coached college for probably 7 years before I went into summer ball. So I coached in the Northwoods League for 3 years with the Lakeshore Chinooks, just as a pitching coach, which, it's a good experience. Like summer ball is a little bit different than than college, just because you got, different guys and coming from all over the country. And you try to mesh personalities. And I think your job as a pitching coach or a coach in general is just to let them be them, be there for them if they need some help, but get them in a routine and, treat them as professionals type of thing. So being in the Northwoods League gave me a good feel of what to expect in summer baseball. And then I applied for the Utica managerial job because my goal with coaching was to be a head coach somewhere. So I wanted to get some sort of experience, being a pitching coach for, at the time, probably, it was probably 7 to 8 years. As a pitching coach, I wanted to be the head guy and see what that, entailed. And, I got the opportunity in Utica and, it was great for me.
So let's talk about this roster, because there were not a lot of D1 guys, very few. I mean, sure, you had some that had D1 experience, like a Taylor Olmstead who had gone to Southern New Hampshire, but, you had Jared Baldinelli from St. Bonaventure and not a lot of other Division I guys. So with that in mind, what were your first impressions of that group? Because obviously when it comes to D1, I really don't think talent doesn't translate. If you're D1, you're D1 and all that. But I mean, talk about the roster and just how they gelled so quickly.
Yeah, it was, in my opinion, the college baseball world, there's parity at all levels. There's talent at every level. Coaching in the Northwoods League, our best pitcher one year was a Division III guy. Our best hitter was a Division II guy. So to me, it doesn't really matter, where you came from. It's more do you want to put in the work? Do you want to get better? Because that's what summer ball is. It's about getting reps and, trying to get better at your craft and playing on a consistent basis, more towards a professional schedule, showing up early, doing early work in the cages and trying to get some ground balls and then go take BP. And you don't have to worry about school. So it's for guys that are passionate about getting better. So to me, level doesn't really matter. And I've been fortunate enough to, to coach the guys that we had in Utica with, guys from various backgrounds, but they gelled so quickly that year together, and the personalities, I'm smiling about it now just because it's funny thinking about the dudes that we had and how much fun myself and Doug and Xander had coaching them. They made our life easy, and it's not every day, not every summer you can coach a group of dudes that get along that well. Number one, like not even like in summer ball, but like college. And then like want to be there and want to get better and want to win. Like it makes your job, makes your job fun.
So speaking of that wanting to win, I remember early in the season, you probably do too, when we started 3-0. Frank, I feel like jokingly, but not jokingly, just kept saying we're going 50-0. What does that say? And guys were buying into it, and obviously Frank being a vocal leader and the guy who essentially assumed the captain role. But what does that speak about just the overall team's mentality of wanting to win every single day they went out there?
Yeah, I think it's like the belief in each other. And then like as a competitor, you want to think that too. You want to win every single day. It doesn't matter who you're playing or where you're playing or what the weather's like. It's like we're going to compete and try to win. I think we had a lot of guys like that shared the same feeling, and maybe it rubbed off on some guys, and maybe that's just their natural personality. But I think like collectively we had like a core of guys that like really wanted to win, and everybody else, pulled along and started believing in that too.
So I know that, you obviously are a baseball buff, but even then, coming into Utica, there's not really much known about the city in general or about the history of the Blue Sox. But when that name came back, it was obviously a big deal for the city. So, take me back to, remembering the crowd on opening night against Elmira. What do you remember from that, and just how passionate the crowd was, knowing that, it's a sense of normalcy, quote unquote, again, with the return of the Blue Sox name?
Yeah, it was fun. Like it was for me, like I noticed the crowd early. And then like you start getting into the game. And for myself, it's like, it's different now. Like when you manage, like you don't just have to worry about the pitchers. Like we're worrying about, base running or potential lineup decisions or, positioning of fielders and stuff like that. So you almost like kind of forget about what's going on behind you, especially that first night. It was almost like making sure I got all the boxes checked, make sure I was doing my job. But, it was awesome to have, I know it was a big, like having Doug on the staff, Doug Gillette on the staff, like, he explained to me how important it is, for the community. And, so just so I can get a feel for what the name means and what Utica Blue Sox means to the baseball community in the area. So I think like I knew the importance of it coming in, and like you can tell with the crowd and the energy that it was welcomed.
And you gave them a lot to cheer about early on in that season, and particularly like the birth of walkoff city. As a manager, like, it's going to make your BP go up. That much is true. But the excitement that those wins brought in. I remember actually, I think he had 3 consecutive Wednesdays with a walk-off, which was absolutely insane. And then obviously one in between there with Hutch having that walk-off against Glens Falls. But just the drama and all that. How exciting was that to see all those wins unfold in such a short amount of time? And by the way, in all 4 of those, he had a different hero every single time.
Yeah, and that goes back to the beginning with like the wanting to win. Like it's always like you always expect to win, and it doesn't matter like what situation you're in. And I think that never went away, whether we're down 3 or up 3. Is like, yeah, we're gonna win. Sometime at the end of those Wednesdays, it was like, okay, yeah, we're down 1. We're probably gonna get the leadoff guy on here. He's probably gonna steal second base, and we're probably gonna get a couple big hits to at least tie the game, go into extras and win it. So at the end of it, you almost like expected it. Like, okay, here we go again.
Trust me. I think part of it was like, me playing up Ludo's legendary speech from the end of Animal House. That again, me being superstitious, I'm like, it's a good luck charm. That's at least what I thought. But I remember that year too, and I'm sad that they don't do this anymore. But the summer collegiate baseball rankings, you guys soared up those when you guys got hot. And you were as high as number 9 in the country. Was that something that, you remember the guys talking about it? Do you remember like you paying attention to it a little at all? But the overall attention that it brought to the franchise and to your team, and like essentially like a pat on the back for like, yeah, you're doing a pretty damn good job here.
Yeah, I think we we talked about it like internally in the coaching staff. I don't know if the players, they probably mentioned and talked about it a little bit, but for us, it was more like they, it's something they deserved, like to get recognition, to, the success they're having on the field, like they should get noticed. And kind of coming out of nowhere and, unexpected, like group of dudes that, have to deal with success is like getting along with your teammates and all that stuff. And I think that's where it came from, is like, the crew gelled together, and like us soaring up the rankings was just like confirmation of like, hey, you guys deserve this.
So that middle of the season slump obviously happened, and part of that was because, guys were getting worn down. I remember like some of the guys that had to leave because of arm issues, innings limits, all that. Stevie Oran gave you some good innings as a starter. Dylan Gertz was another guy who was pretty solid as well. And obviously, you got to reload somehow, some way. And you got it and then some in the form of two guys from your neck of the woods out of Concordia St. Paul, Gus Varlin, Kevin Webke, and then out of Wright State, Bear Bellamy. I mean, how important was it to have those guys bolstering your pitching staff? And, how instrumental was Dougie in, obviously you being a pitching guy, but having Dougie make sure everyone was all set and, getting them to perform to their potential?
Yeah, it was good. Like I had relationships with, Kevin Webke going back to college. I actually recruited him to Concordia St. Paul when I was there for a year. So I'm pretty familiar with him. So I think like just calling, I know he wasn't, I don't think he was playing any summer ball that year besides just like amateur ball in Minnesota. So it was pretty easy to, pick up the phone and call. That's half the battle in summer baseball is like guys leave. Certain pitchers have innings limits, and which is fine. It's, you just need to reload and retool. And, we did that just, and like making those phone calls to like Bear and Webke and Gus is like, okay, yeah, look at our record. We're successful. So you're not going to come here and, be miserable, and we got a good group of guys. So at the end of the day, it was pretty easy to get them whatever it was, 20 hours east.
Oh man. I mean, I can't even imagine, like the driving must have just been, but obviously it's about the journey to get there, but obviously getting to the destination and having that all be rewarding. But I mean, the pitching staff was just, how great was it to have, as a head coach, have a great pitching staff and then have it balance out with just an absolutely loaded offense with Jennings at the top, Spit at short, T.O., as we all know, is basically a god here in Utica, and then Mitch, Mike Warren, Gold Glove outfielder, also in there as well. I mean, that balance must have been like a godsend for you as a head coach.
Yeah. Does Taylor have a statue there yet?
We're still waiting on it.
Yeah. No, it was good because it gave us options, because you don't want to, like, it's not like in summer ball where pitching guys back-to-back days or throwing them 120 pitches or anything like that. Like, we're being, respectful to them and their colleges and stuff like that. So we want to put guys in tough situations and also like give them the confidence that they can do that type of stuff. So I think like early on, we threw them in those type of situations, and then as the summer goes, they get more comfortable and they get more confident, and like, okay, yeah, the coach is going to throw me in 1-run ball game in the 9th inning, and here we go. Like I know my teammates they have confidence in me, so I'm just, I'm going to do my job. I think that's a kind of a trickle down effect. And, like you said, you got guys behind you playing defense, and Frankie and Spit and, Calandra catching or playing third, or, if they do happen to put the ball in play, we got guys behind you that are going to make a lot of plays. And then as, especially as like a starting pitcher or a staff, that we're going to put up runs. And if we happen to get behind, like we talked about a little bit ago, it's like we're probably going to come back on and win at some point. So it's like a never die situation.
And I got to ask about this too. I mean, Taylor was one of those guys coming back. Jack McClure was one of those guys that kept everybody loose. He didn't throw a lot because I don't know what was happening there, but he stuck, even though he wasn't pitching, he still stuck around and was like a great morale guy. And then I can't not mention Jared Baldinelli because that's one of my favorite dudes. I mean, every time, like anytime I hear Careless Whisper by George Michael, I immediately think of him. But I mean, those three guys being, the been there, done that guys, how important were they in keeping all the other guys kind of level headed, and then and watching, I mean, Taylor get the reaction they did, and obviously Baldinelli and hearing a lot of the women in the crowd going nuts when they hear that sweet sax from George Michael.
Yeah, he had the flow going too. So,
oh yeah,
those guys are great for us, the coaching staff, just because they had, experience with the team, with the league. So if I had questions on, maybe like a schedule thing that we wanted to do, whether it's like take a bunch of ground balls before the game and, or, take early BP in the cages or something like that, or just any questions with the league, like early on in the summer, I can like bounce things off them and kind of get a pulse of the team, so to speak. And then, they gave me pretty good answers and, what's the feel of the team and all that type of stuff. So, they helped me out a lot, especially early. And then as the summer went on, a lot of those guys kind of carried that role throughout the summer and as, were leaders, and whether it was vocal or on the field, it's, they helped us a ton.
Let's talk about the playoffs, because that is where essentially you establish your legacy. And that, I mean, who knows what could have happened if you didn't get by Jamestown. And that was a pitcher's duel with a lengthy rain delay. It was at least an hour from what I remember against Jamestown. But you find yourselves down 1-0 again. I'm trying to remember who it was that homered. I'm pretty sure it was their leadoff guy that did. But you're down 1-0. But Webke, other than that, brilliant in this game. But bottom of the seventh, you're kind of expecting a rally. And how impressed were you by what unfolded with Mason, a guy who didn't get a lot of fanfare, getting the go-ahead 2-run single, and then, slow and steady, Baldinelli is the guy that gives you the insurance run, and then the ever-reliant, it's funny that we still call him new guy, even though he had been there the whole time, but Ryan Green getting the save on just 5 pitches to finish it off.
Yeah, new guy. I forgot about that day with the rain delay. Yeah, that was like, I know it was the start of the playoffs, and like the next game was like your heart beating out of your chest type game. But like, that started everything for us. And I think for us is like, part of it didn't really feel like a playoff game. It was like, it was the same feel. It was the same like clubhouse dynamics. It was like, yeah, we're going to win. Let's go to the second round. Let's take care of business. Today, and then let's go to work. We're at home, so I think it kind of relaxed us, and like playing those early games like that, and like having that confidence in the playoffs kind of gets you almost primed and ready to know what to expect, like as you move forward in the playoffs. So like, it was. Yeah, I totally forgot about that game, honestly, until you brought it up, especially the rain part. Which
I mean, it did produce an iconic photo of Mitch Calandra playing a little baseball golf there.
Yeah, of course. Calandra's probably always doing something weird.
I mean, I should probably follow up with him because he was last week's guest about that. Yeah. But I mean, Mitch is Mitch, man. I mean, the group of characters that you had obviously, got you to where you were, but in that West Division Championship Series, Elmira is a team that you had their number for most of the year, and you get them in game 1 in Elmira. Tough place to play, mind you, but you win. Prince pitches a gem, but it comes at a cost. T.O. goes down with an injury. Same with Mason. And, was there any sense of like, okay, tough pill to swallow, but, and how much did it affect you guys in game 2 where Sean Jelly, 6'11" monster for Elmira, just went out there and just absolutely dominated for 9 innings?
Yeah, he's a good arm. I remember that. It is a tough place to play too, because there's like, I think the sun typically messes with hitters early.
It does, yeah.
And then, but it's the same, the mentality that they carried all year is like, it's like you lose a guy like Taylor, who's like, like you said, a legend in Utica, and like a guy that's hitting in the middle of the order for you. It sucks, but it's like, what can you do? And, you kind of got to control what you control and, put the next guy in, and whoever it is, we're, as a team, we're going to expect to be successful and like carry him along with us. And, I don't think the moment was too big and for anybody. So I think, just like as a team, we just rallied around it and just kept rolling. That's all you can do, especially in the playoffs.
So let's talk about, you lose a guy in Olmsted, but before game 3, and I remember this is one of like the best stories I've ever heard from summer college ball, just in general. But Mike Warren was a guy who had gone home after the regular season ended. But for game 3, all of a sudden he just magically appears in your clubhouse in Elmira. What do you remember from that? Just the over the big morale boost that it brought to you going into a win or go home scenario in a hostile environment in Elmira.
Yeah, we called Mike and they're like, hey, man, Taylor got hurt. We need an outfielder. Would you be willing to come up here and play for us in the playoffs? And, like he got along with everybody as well. Like we keep talking about, like the group in general is like pulling for each other. So he's like basically dropped everything and came up just to play in the playoffs, whether it was like, it could have been one game for him. Or it could have been like like what happened, a couple games, but he didn't really care. It was just like, yeah, I'm coming up. I'm going to try to help you guys. So it was I don't think, if I remember right, I don't think we told anybody either. Like we just like, here comes Mike Warren popping on the bus or, so he got a pretty big clap, round of applause, and like, holy cow.
And that I remember, like keeping it under wraps and having that big element of surprise, because if you spoil it, it's like, like the energy boost isn't going to be as significant. But let's talk about that game. So it's back and forth, you guys go up. Robbie had a big RBI early on, and I think it was 2-2 going into the 7th. And actually, no, it might have been 2-1, but what I do remember was Mitch tied it up. Mitch tied it up in the 7th inning, and that's a silencer for the most part, but there's still work to be done. And by the way, Ryan Green came in a tough spot, got out of not one, but 2 bases loaded jams. But the resiliency in the 8th inning against a really good closer in Elmira and Parker Karachi. But in the 8th inning, 8th and 9th inning, the way you hit him, how impressed were you? Like, and did you kind of have a feeling knowing that you've seen a bunch of times that like, okay, we're going to get this guy right here, right now?
Yeah. And that game was like trying to scrap for runs any way we can. If I remember right, our first run, I think their shortstop, it was either Frankie hitting or Spit. No, Spit was on second base, and I think Frankie was hitting, if I remember right, or it was the other way around. But anyway, like our first run came like the shortstop, like I told myself at third base, because our shortstop didn't have the greatest arm in the world. If Spit hits one to his backhand side, we're going to wheel. I think it was Frankie all the way around to score. So because Spit beat it out at first base with 2 outs, and like Frankie just kept running, and we happened to like steal a run out of it. That's the type of series it was. Like you just like, if you play good baseball and you just like scrap a run any way you can, it's just like the fundamentals of baseball is like, I think that's how we won that game. And it was, like just continue to take good at bats. And like, we had a decent idea of what their closer had and what he did, because we saw him, a decent amount. So in those bigger situations like that, it's like, you don't need to do extra. It's just, take your approach. What are you trying to do with this guy? What's your identity as a hitter? And then let's go to work. And that's kind of what we did. And then Ryan Green, I know had a little bit of struggles with command. I remember walking out there. He might've got squeezed on a couple calls that the coaching staff let the umpire know a little bit, but he had the bases loaded, I believe, with nobody out. And I walked out there and it was like nobody was warming up. It was like, hey man, like this is your game. Like this, we're not gonna, like, everybody believes in you. We're not gonna take you out. Like this is your ball game. And then he went to clinch it, and new guy did it again.
Yeah. He definitely went into kill mode. And by the way, I mean, talk about the emotions. I remember Robbie being a guy who, for the most part was a defensive specialist, because I remember in that Jamestown game, Robbie came in for defensive purposes, replacing Mason, which paid off a lot. And in this game, he made a great leaping catch to potentially save a run, 2, maybe more. But I mean, talk about the emotions of like getting into a tense situation like that. Robbie coming to save the day, and essentially, I mean, go from that, and then we set the stage for that 9th inning with Ryan closing it out.
Yeah, it was like big moment after big moment. It felt like that's what it was like. I don't know if I've been a part of that game, a game like that, like where it was like back and forth, and like any little mistake might cost you. And making plays like Robbie, who's, like, to speak on him for a second, like watching his career, a few years after, like he turned himself into like a really, really good baseball player, which was fun to see. But he's, the same guy. Like he did a lot of work that nobody saw. It was like he did a lot of work in the cages. He did a lot of defensive stuff. He made himself valuable, that year and years down the road. Not only like with his glove now, like he's putting together like pretty consistent at bats. But like the excitement is, because it's hard to replicate like the excitement and like as a pitcher or even like a hitter in that type of situation, like your heart rate elevates so much. And like, yeah, you have to have the ability to just like calm yourself down, breathe, as they breathe through your eyelids or whatever. But like, it's, just to harp on it again, if you got a group of guys that want to play for each other, it makes things a lot easier. You get in those big type of situations, everyone's pulling together and rooting for each other.
So let's talk about that 9th inning, because that was not as drama filled as getting out of a couple of bases loaded jams. That's when new guy got into his groove, and 1, 2, 3 took care of the job. I mean, do you remember like just the anticipation just with each out, just essentially like wanting to hold your breath even more, knowing what was on the line, knowing, by the way, I mean, it was a 2-1 game a couple innings ago. Now you're comfortably up 3 runs, and your closer's going to close the door here again.
Yeah, you can almost take a deep breath, but it was still like, they had a good offense, so you still had to I think the big thing in those situations is get the leadoff guy out and, get out one. And once that kind of happened, you almost like take a deep breath. You're like, okay, this might happen now. So, kind of look at the whole picture and like, yep, I think this is going to happen. Like new guy got in a groove after he settled in, and it was not many people are going to hit him once he's in the strike zone.
Oh yeah. And I mean, tell me what you remember just from the scene after Connor Burns goes down swinging, Green pumping out the jersey, swag down, all that, and silencing a crowd of a good 5,000 people, and then a celebration ensuing.
Yeah, I think we went with the hug first with Xander and Dougie Fresh, and then got some water poured on me, and then we got, shook hands with the other team and went in the clubhouse, and the guys were screaming and hooting and hollering. It was a fun, like, as a first year manager, first year head coach, it's like, that's kind of what you play for right there, is seeing them, like, putting guys in like situations like that and high pressure situations, and just letting them play. And, whether you're successful or not, it's going to help your career at the end of the day, like handling those big type of situations. It's really good for those guys.
So in the championship series against Amsterdam, and, the guys that I've had on this show from that team, the reason why y'all got swept was, I mean, I think it was a matter of you guys just running out of gas and Amsterdam being just the juggernaut that they are. I mean, you talk about some of the guys they had. I mean, Nick Patton, first base, just raped, just absolute power machine. Joe Janor was another guy, Tristan Carranza. I mean, the list goes on in Amsterdam. And obviously they had the arms from all these Power 5 schools. And when you're at that point, I mean, were you guys just running on fumes and just didn't have enough in the tank to take on Amsterdam that way?
Yeah, it was tough because the series with Elmira, it's like such a back and forth affair that, at the end, like you get it. I think maybe it was like a day off and then go to the championship series. And it was I think they hit us in the mouth early in first game, and you can kind of feel it, just a little bit like, man, we need some energy and need some life here. And, but yeah, the talent that they had, day in and day out, like it was the same struggle as like playing Elmira. It's like, it's a big boxing match and guys are throwing punches back and forth. And it does take a toll on you when you go through that type of playoff series, like not only Elmira, but the first one, like you're playing a full week of playoff baseball and a lot of ups and downs with it. So I think we got to that point. It was a little, I don't want to say let down, but like you said, a little worn down mentally.
I mean, obviously having your season end is tough, but at least you guys got to the championship series number one. So, I mean, there was that finality no matter what. But, I mean, what do you remember just from, that last loss in game 2 in Amsterdam at Shuttleworth Park and, the reaction of the guys, saying goodbye to each other and, you saying goodbye to a group of guys that you're probably, except for maybe a few, probably most likely never going to see again.
Yeah, it was, I think towards the end of the game, it might've got pretty out of hand. So it was a lot of like just reflecting on, the summer and the guys and stuff like that. And, there were some tears from the guys after the game, which for me, it was great to see because, they cared about winning. They cared about each other. And, it was disappointed. Like it's strange in summer ball when, you see usually it's like we lose, let's get out of here. But these guys, like to play for each other and, there were some tears and it was hard to like come up with words to say to them, besides like, thank you. And, appreciate the effort this summer. And I couldn't say too much because I think like the tears are going to flow too. So, but it was, it's very, just sitting there during the game and after the game, just looking around and looking at the guys, like with how much effort they put in that summer, it's all you can do is say thank you, because they made our lives easy and as coaches and, we got a front row seat to watch these guys play all summer, which was fun.
Now, knowing, the impact of that group and essentially laying a big foundation for the success that's happened since. I mean, like, is that something, you take pride in? And also, watching Dougie take over as manager back in 2019 and so far first 2 seasons, already 54-33 with a Central Division title and a West Division regular season title under his belt, and maybe more to add this year and beyond.
Yeah, it's been great watching like the organization grow from that first year to to where it is now. And I'm really glad like Doug is the manager and got to take over because he's a good coach and he cares a ton about the players. And I think that's where like the respect from the guys and why they're successful, like word gets around like, hey, you're going to get treated well in Utica because not only like the organization and stuff like that, but like Doug and his assistant coaches, he's going to put a group together that is there for the players, and at the end of the day, that's all it's about, trying to get these guys as good as possible and hopefully get them drafted and play professionally anywhere. So whatever you can do for the guys to get them to that level, that's the goal. And that's what, Doug wants to do.
And speaking of, seeing and wanting your guys to, turn pro. I mean, let's just talk about just some of the guys that have been professionals. I mean, Mitch had a 2-year stint with the Atlanta Braves organization. Now he's with the Long Island Ducks back in his home area. But on the pitching side of things, I know you as a pitching coach, you probably take a little more pride in this. But watching guys like Gus Farland, become great prospects, Gus being with the Dodgers, and then Jared Solomon being close to becoming a major leaguer with the Reds. I mean, how rewarding is that to, see guys that you coach, have success now at the professional level?
Yeah, you keep tabs on everybody, whether it's through social media or you just, you hear about guys, and whether it's like I was, more familiar with Gus and Louis just because they're from, where I'm from basically. So, and I got the chance to coach Louis last year in high A with Cedar Rapids. So definitely got a front row seat to watch him, be minor league pitcher of the year for the Twins. But Gus is doing really well with the Dodgers. I know Jared's doing really well. So it's like seeing their success, whatever small part we had in it, is great. You just want everybody to have success, whether it's in baseball or whatever they decide to do. So whatever small part we have is awesome.
And you brought it up too. I mean, how funny is it that, you got to coach Gus, in Utica, and then years down the road, you get Louis with Cedar Rapids. And I mean, what was it like watching him, evolve and become a dominant force that earned himself, minor league pitcher of the year with the Twins?
Yeah, so we had the COVID year with shutdown. So he put a lot of work in. Like you could tell the guys that really, whether it was the lifting side or the baseball side, like, hey, this is our goal this off season, and our job as coaches was to check in on them and, potentially get some video from them and all that type of stuff. And like the changes that Louis made along his goals were crazy. Like he popped 100 miles an hour in the off season, and he showed up and everything, stayed the same. He dominated A ball, and then he came up to us in high A and had the same success. So I was like, like we talked about at the beginning, it's like Division II, Division I, like Louis is a Division II arm. And so is Gus, and they prove themselves to not only be like professional baseball players, but damn good ones.
Oh, and guys that can certainly make that push to getting to the show, and that's got to be another rewarding feeling. I mean, I got to coach a real major leaguers, and obviously that praying that's going to happen because good things come to good people. And by the way, I want to also ask about this again, I know you're with the Cedar Rapids Colonels, and as I know now, we saw last year the Field of Dreams game happened in the major leagues with the Yankees and the White Sox at the Field of Dreams in Dyersville, Iowa, and they're branching out to the minor league this year, and your team will be in it. I mean, what are your thoughts on having that potential stage for you?
Yeah, it's awesome. Like the excitement we had about it, not only like when they announced it, but after still, like it's still going is pretty crazy. And we're going to be playing the team that's, an hour away. So there's going to be a lot of people that not only from Iowa, but traveling around that are going to try to come to the game. And I think it's like just seeing the area, like I've been to the field where the movie was shot, and like seeing like being able to see the new field and play on that field and, walk through the corn, which I think we have to do. That's going to be fun. That's part of baseball, whether it's a movie or not, but it's pretty, like the history of just the area and how much people appreciate it is awesome.
Would you say this like kind of like a bucket list item that you didn't know was on there until an opportunity like that just came up?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's going to be fun. Tell you, it's like just watching it on TV last year, and I know we're going to have like old school uniforms, like the like the Cedar Rapids team that was in the early 1900s, and Quad Cities is going to be wearing something, old school too. So like it's probably going to go all out there. So it'll be fun.
So, wrap this up. I mean, again, you said, 6 years ago, but it feels like yesterday. I mean, like how impactful was, that head coaching experience, that entire summer in Utica, like how impactful was that, on everything you've done since, and, like the kind of effect that, has on you as a coach and as a person, what the city and that group means to you now.
Yeah, it was, for me as because eventually, like down the road, like I went back to Augustana and coached for 2 years, and then I got an opportunity to be a head coach at the Division II up in North Dakota. And like even as an assistant coach, what to expect a little bit different. Like you look at the game differently as a manager compared to like an assistant coach, or at least I did growing up, like all the details and what you need to pay attention to, not just like on field, but like the personalities, and like how do you motivate this guy compared to like this guy. Like everything's different, and like humans, everybody's going to be different in how they operate and how they accept criticism, or or praise even. So like just getting the opportunity to do that was, for me, was huge. And then just having like the group of dudes, not only like on the coaching staff, and then like having the group of guys on the field, like just made things that much better.
And coach, what you did as the manager of 2016, I mean, you got to set the tone somehow, some way in the first year with the Blue Sox name back, and you certainly did it. And then some, a team that's going to live on forever and ever here in Utica. And, like we all can't thank you enough here. I mean, it's funny, like I'm still here, and that was my first season getting to do PA for you guys. And, like it's only gone up from here since on my end. But I mean, to have that be my first summer doing PA for this team, it couldn't have been any better. And, like you guys made it that much enjoyable for me. And, you played your role in it as well. Easy to work with, all that jazz. So coach, appreciate, everything you did then. Appreciate you obviously coming on the show. Best of luck, continued success out in Cedar Rapids and throughout anywhere you go within the Twins organization or wherever. And, you'll always have, always be welcome back with open arms here in Utica. And whenever that time does come for you to, make your return, maybe 10-year reunion, we'll see. But again, appreciate the time. And again, best of luck moving forward.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
So that does it for this week's edition of the Soxcast. For Mark Moriarty, manager of the 2016 West Division Championship team, I'm Tim Best signing off. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week.